Hey YouTubers, it's your girl Shannon from Tesla and Chill, and we have a lot to talk about. As you just saw in those little clips that we just played, Elon has released the long-awaited Cybertruck. As you can see, it has been talked about since 2012, and we finally saw the reveal on Thursday, and I can say that it is unlike anything we have ever seen before. I think this is definitely going to revolutionize the truck industry. If you saw in the reveal, Elon played a clip of the past 100 years of trucks, and the Cybertruck looks nothing like those. So we are going to talk about that today. We are going to talk about my first impressions. We're going to talk about the exterior, the interior, performance, and of course, perhaps most importantly, we are going to talk about range. So we are going to cover those 5 things today. Now let's jump right in because there is so much to cover. We need to talk about the first impressions, because when I first saw the Cybertruck roll out, I have to say I was kind of in shock. I didn't even know what to think. To be honest, I'm still kind of on the fence. I don't know if I love it or hate it right now because it's so divisive. I don't think you'll find someone that just doesn't really have an opinion on it. People are either completely for it or completely against it. And if you saw one of my past videos where we covered the Rivian, I thought that truck looked so futuristic, but now that the Cybertruck is here, the Rivian kind of looks normal to me, and the Cybertruck looks crazy. I almost thought it was a joke, to be honest. I thought this cannot be the real truck. Elon cannot be serious. I thought he was going to roll this one out and it was going to be a fake truck, and then he was going to roll the real one out. But no other truck came out, so this is the real truck. And when I saw it, again, I was in shock. I didn't know what to think. There were so many angles. It didn't even look like an actual truck, to be honest. It kind of looked like a cross between some sort of origami figure and a tank. So you put those together and you get the Cybertruck. And when I do look at it, all I see are these angles. Of course, it's made out of stainless steel, and like we saw in the demonstrations, the exterior is super, super strong, which is a good thing, kind of reminiscent of the tank. And then with all the angles and everything that are on the truck, because it's so angular, of course, that's going to help with aerodynamics and make it more efficient, but at the same time, I think the mom in me came out and I really wanted to go around and child-proof every angle for my son. But that's just my own opinion. I know some people really love it. And I have to be honest, I think the more I stared at the truck, because of course when you're watching the reveal, you see Elon and the Cybertruck is right behind him. The more I looked at it, the more it kind of grew on me and I kind of liked it more and more. Again, it's still something I've never seen before, so I'm not quite sure how to, I guess, digest it, because in my mind, a truck should be like an F-150, a Dodge, a Chevy, the traditional truck that we've seen my whole life, in the past, of course, 100 years. And I owned an F-150, I owned a Ford Platinum. It was beautiful, her name was Penelope. I was so used to that kind of look and that kind of feel of a truck, that this one, I guess, is so like 100 years from now that I'm still trying to process it. But the exterior, it does look super cool now. Again, I'm not sure if I like it or hate it, but it does look different. It looks cool. It looks militaristic. It looks like something that you'd want to have if you were going to face the apocalypse, maybe. But it is super strong. I do like that. The wheels look different. I like kind of the seamless bar headlights and taillights. And the headlights almost wrap around the truck just a little bit there. And I think that's definitely a trend we've been seeing in other companies as well. So that's something that's not super unique to Tesla, but I do like where they're going with that. I think it does look really cool. I don't know what else to say because it just looks crazy. When you do look at kind of the angles of the windows, those are something that I think it's pretty neat because they are so like triangular. I think when I get in a typical car, I'm kind of used to that like square or rectangle feel. So I wonder how that is when you're sitting on the inside. But Elon did say that the windows were made out of transparent metal, which I think is super, super cool. It does, again, it sounds super strong. He even gave the demonstration where he was dropping those really heavy balls, you know, at different heights and the glass still wasn't breaking. Of course, we did have that little moment where the guy on stage threw those metal balls at the windows and it shattered. So probably, again, like Elon said, not what was supposed to happen. And the balls didn't go through the window, so that was a good thing. But probably, again, I think he tweeted out later it was something they intended to fix before the actual release. And in keeping with talking with the exterior, we have to talk about, of course, the color. It is in that stainless steel silver color. And when you go online to pre-order it, that is the only color option that is available. So if you are going to order this truck, I hope you like silver. Otherwise, I think the only other option right now might be to wrap it. So if you don't like silver, you might be shelling out a few extra pennies to get the color you really like. Now that we've talked about the exterior, we need to move on to, of course, what you will see on the inside. Now let's talk about the interior. Oh, but real quick, I forgot about this. Before we move on to the interior, I have to throw one more thing back at you about the exterior. And we have to talk about the stainless steel one more time, because as cool as this is, it's not the first time stainless steel has been done. If you remember back to the old DeLorean, those were also available in stainless steel, and they didn't come in any other color. They stuck with the stainless steel. So I don't know if Elon was maybe thinking of that when he created this truck, but it is something that has been done before, but never quite in this truck design. Okay, now we can move on. Now let's talk about one of the most important features of the truck, and that is the interior. And to be honest, I wish that Elon would have spent just a little bit more time focusing on the interior of the truck instead of the exterior, because once you actually start driving it and you own one, that is where you're going to be spending most of your time. But nonetheless, we are going to cover that right here and right now. And if you can see in this picture, here is the interior of the truck, and it is going to be available in two versions, both a 5-seater version and a 6-seater version. And what I'm most drawn to when I first see this picture is the screen on the truck. And that's of course going to have all the information that the driver needs to see immediately. Kind of keeping in line with the Model 3, the driver will be able to see all the information that they need, like speed limit, how fast they're going, radio information. All of that is going to be on that center screen instead of a heads-up display that's offered in other vehicles. And I think what's probably most important about this is noticing that the screen is in a horizontal or kind of a widescreen direction instead of the typical vertical screen that we've seen in the Model X and the Model S. And I think moving to a horizontal screen, kind of like they did in the Model 3, is definitely the way of the future, and I'll tell you why in just a second. I also want to point out that when Ford just released their Mustang Mach-E, they also released that in a vertical screen, which I don't think is going to be really good for the future, and here is why. Because as cars become more self-capable of doing self-driving, and they're able to do a lot of things themselves, and they need the drivers less and less, I think the driver will be able to focus more on entertainment and what the car can provide them for that entertainment. And so that means, kind of like in the Model 3, how we're able to watch Netflix and Hulu and YouTube, using a horizontal screen is a little bit more practical because you're able to see more. Kind of like when TVs first came out, they started kind of like with that square version, and then as TVs were progressing and became more technologically advanced, they became more widescreen. And yes, they went more taller too, but they really focused on becoming more of a wide screen. And that's just more for, I think, the viewer's benefit. You can see more on a wide screen as opposed to being vertical. Even if you go to the movie theater, that is more of a wide screen than anything else. So I think having that in the car or the truck is going to be super important for the future. I wish that was something that the Ford Mach-E did also, but we're talking about the Cybertruck right now. So I really do like that they did the horizontal screen. I think that's definitely going to be super useful moving into the future. But I also want to talk about the steering wheel, because it is not your traditional round steering wheel that you have in any other car. This is not a steering wheel where you'll be able to just kind of like chill out and put your hand on the top of it and cruise down the road. You're going to have your hands at 9 and 3. It's very reminiscent of a Formula One race car, so it definitely gives that race car feel, even though it is a truck. So I think that's a really cool touch. And when we touch on performance, I think that's going to come into play here. But let's continue in talking about some other features about the car. The seats, they look really beautiful. They look super sleek. Just from the picture, it looks like it's going to be a leather seat, and probably keeping in line with Tesla, it's going to be a vegan leather, and you can see a touch of that Alcantara there. And I also think if you look in the picture, you can see, of course, there looks like a very panoramic feel because there is the glass ceiling on top, and because the windows really offer so much room. I think it's going to give you that really open feel inside. And after owning a Ford F-150 Platinum myself, I thought there was a ton of room in that vehicle. Even sitting in the back, if you had the front seats moved all the way back, you could still have someone that was like 6'2" or 6'3" sit very comfortably in the back. Adults could sit back there and have plenty of leg room and plenty of space to move around. And that was in a traditional ICE vehicle. I think with Tesla being an electric vehicle, because they don't have to have that engine space and all that stuff in the actual front of the car, they're able to really utilize their space and move the cab forward, which will really create a whole lot more space that can be utilized by people instead of putting extra machinery in there. So I do anticipate there being a frunk, just kind of like all the other Teslas have, but I really think the interior is going to be a whole lot more spacious, giving room really to store a lot of other things and other people. But what I also like, just lastly here, is the light bar you'll notice right on the side of the truck. I think that's a really nice feature to have. I think there are so many times where I've been inside a vehicle and it's too dark. Even if you just push the little tiny circle light that's up there, it doesn't provide as much light as I want, but judging from this picture, it looks like there's going to be a lot of light coming from that. So let's move on to something else. We need to talk about performance. Moving on, we are going to talk about performance, but we're also going to talk about range because I think the two really go together here. Now let's start talking about the very first model that they offer of the Cybertruck, and this is really just your baseline model here, and this starts right at $39,900. And if you remember back to one of Elon's previous tweets, he said that you should be able to get a really decent truck for under $40,000, and he has definitely hit the mark here, and I think you get a whole lot for this price point. So let's break it down and let's look at the stats. So for just under $40,000, you get a Cybertruck that goes 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. It's going to have a towing capacity of 7,500 pounds, and it's going to have a range of 250 miles, which I think is pretty on par with maybe the standard Range Plus vehicle Tesla has to offer. So this seems like a really solid truck, really good baseline. I think if you're in a really urban environment, this is going to be a perfect truck for you. Maybe not if you do a lot of things in the rural area. I think you might want to level up to the next one, but again, this is a really great baseline truck. I think this offers a whole lot for the money. Now, moving on here, we're going to talk about the next one. This is kind of the next level up from the single motor rear-wheel drive. This is the dual motor all-wheel drive. And I think for a truck, that is what I would really want. I don't think if I'm going to get a truck, I'd want rear-wheel drive. I want all-wheel drive. And looking back at the truck that I used to have, the Ford F-150 Platinum, that was an all-wheel drive, and I think that definitely came in handy on quite a few occasions. So I definitely foresee if you own this truck, you would use it a whole lot more as well. Now this truck starts at $49,900, so not a ton higher than the baseline truck, but for this you get a whole lot more as well. This truck can hit 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, and that's really getting into muscle car territory. So like your Mustang, your Camaro, this truck is going to be on par with those cars. And to me, that is starting to like blow my mind. That's really, really impressive. But not only that, it's going to have an increased towing capacity. So this is going to be able to tow 10,000 pounds, and it's going to have a range of 300 miles, which I think is super great. To think that a truck can do that, that is really crazy. So if you want something that's going to have the most range you can get, you're going to want to go to the most insane truck Tesla has to offer right now, and that is the tri-motor all-wheel drive. And tri-motor, that is a first for Tesla. That is a huge deal. 3 motors in a truck, that is crazy to think about, but Tesla has done it. And the starting base price of this is going to be $69,900. So that's not even like a super insane price when you think about other vehicles that could be along the same price point. But let me give you the breakdown here. For the tri-motor, it is going to hit 0 to 60 in less than 2.9 seconds. That is insane. To put this into perspective for you, that can beat the Chevy Corvette Z06. That can beat all BMWs in the M series. The Aston Martin Vantage, it can beat that. The Dodge Viper is going to be eating Tesla's dust. And the Porsche 911, like you saw in the reveal video, the Tesla Cybertruck can beat that. And that is insane. That is a huge deal. Try to wrap your mind around it because I cannot. Okay, but let's talk about the other facts here because it does have the towing capacity of 14,000 pounds, and that's a whole lot right there. That's just a lot of weight. And it also has a range of 500 miles. That is a huge distance that can go a very long way before you need to charge it. So that is super impressive. This is kind of like the ludicrous mode of the Cybertrucks. So if you want to go all out, the tri-motor is the one to get. But even the baseline, I think, is still super impressive. And all of these offer, of course, the air suspension that can go higher and lower. So it's going to be really handy if you're ever going to go off-road or even if you're in the urban environment. I know when we had our Ford F-150 Platinum, when we were driving in Seattle, we couldn't even go into some parking garages because our truck was too high. Granted, it did have a 3-inch lift kit all the way around, so it was a little bit higher, and it did have 35-inch tires, so not super conducive to urban living. But this truck, it doesn't matter because you can lower it, you can fit it into smaller spaces if you need to, you can raise it and have the most ground clearance that you need to have. So it really has a lot of different functionalities. I like that it's multi-purpose. And I love this. If you do want to reserve a Cybertruck, you can do so for only $100 on their website. So that's pretty cheap, and your deposit is fully refundable if you decide you don't want it later. And all of these trucks do come with autopilot. Now, if you want to add the self-driving feature, that's something that you can add on to your package a little bit later. That's going to be just an additional fee, but autopilot is standard. So I really like what Tesla has to offer here. I think the Cybertruck is definitely going to change the way of trucks in the future. I hope all the other truck companies are looking on and taking notes because Tesla is literally revolutionizing it right now. Now that is all I have for today, so if you've enjoyed this video, drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. And just like that, as we were filming this, Elon has just tweeted out his newest update. The Cybertruck will be available in different colors, including matte black. That's gonna look super cool. So that is the latest update straight from Elon. I love the fact that we can actually get these tweets as they happen straight from him. I think that's super cool instead of having to wait for things like the Detroit Auto Show where you have to wait for companies to go through a formal release. I love that customers can really talk to Elon and he'll respond. I think that's super cool. So, latest update is it will be available in different colors. Now that is all that we have for real for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.